Okay, so here's his post. He says the reason top tech companies often hire foreign-born and first-generation engineers over Native Americans isn't because of an innate American IQ deficit, a lazy, wrong explanation. A key part of it comes down to the C word, culture. A culture that celebrates the prom queen over the math Olympiad champ or the jock over the valedictorian will not produce the best engineers.
Over the Christmas holiday, Musk posted this online saying, think of this like a pro sports team. If you want your team to win the championship, you need to recruit top talent wherever they may be. He later added, I'm referring to bringing in, via legal immigration, the top 0.1% of engineering talent as being essential for America to keep winning.
It gives us no benefit in having the average American competing with average people around the world for a job. It makes sense to me that people who are at very competitive educational levels that can become Elon Musk, to me, is better to compete at that level, because it's a small group of people who have a specialized skill that can give us the competitive advantage around the entire world, and that can change the accomplishments of the United States of America in generations to come. Let's just say we didn't allow it and we didn't have an Elon Musk. We would probably lost this election without Elon Musk, just so you know. No way in the world we would have electric cars at the level that we have without Elon Musk. We wouldn't be traveling and doing all this other stuff like Elon Musk. When people had the problems over in New York, I mean, not New York, but in North Carolina, when those hurricanes hit, they didn't have Starlink. It probably would be no Starlink without an Elon Musk. So there's benefits to having competition. I saw that people were turning against Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy over their support of the H-1B visa.
Okay, so here's his post. He says the reason top tech companies often hire foreign-born and first-generation engineers over Native Americans isn't because of an innate American IQ deficit, a lazy, wrong explanation. A key part of it comes down to the C word, culture. A culture that celebrates the prom queen over the math Olympiad champ or the jock over the valedictorian will not produce the best engineers. Sounds a little embittered, maybe. Is it American culture that's the problem?
Somebody got stuffed in a locker. I'm not going to say who. Look, I think there's a way to solve this and talk about this that doesn't denigrate all of American culture. I mean, I'm now understanding more and more how he got 100 votes in Iowa or whatever it was he got during the Iowa caucus. The reality is, and Elon, by the way, clarified or further explained his position later and was talking about saying, I want to bring in the top 0.1% of engineering talent from around the world. It's like bringing in a Jokic or a Wembyana to help your whole team if you want to make a comparison to the NBA. So I think we can bring in the absolute top talent from around the world and at the same time not insult the rest of the United States of America and our culture and the way we do things here, and also lift up the American students who have the talent and who have the interest and put them in the right educational opportunities. I think what he did today was to overtalk it. A lot of MAGA people are not happy. A lot of Republicans are not happy, and this is why Donald Trump's in the Oval Office, and he's
saying
a
something
volunteer.
that a lot of people apparently believe, that it's about like the jocks being celebrated, the football stars being celebrated, and not the nerds.
Now, just like any other patriotic American, I know you don't have time to look up what specifically is involved with the H-1B visa, so that's why I did the research for you. Many people have commentary about it, many people have theories about it, but there's a lot of people that have no idea what the H-1B visa is all about. My initial thoughts of the H-1B visa, or at least my initial thoughts for this live stream, is that I'm in favor of it for the most part, but I do think that there's protections that need to be put in place to prioritize Americans' interests. But I do not think that the H-1B visa is a bad thing. When you hear me read the criteria that's involved in H-1B visa, you will see why it makes sense. And anybody who's a business owner that owns a company, that runs a company, especially if you run a company that's nationwide, you will understand how important H-1B visas are. And if you're honest, you will understand that this country was built on H-1B visa type people. Where would we be without the brilliant mind of Elon Musk? That guy was an H-1B visa type guy. Where would we be without Vivek Ramaswamy, that's a part of the Doge? Well, I think his family came to this country as immigrants. So there's some nuance to it. Do I think that we should prioritize American interests? 100%. Do we need to coddle to everything that Americans want to do, even when they're lazy? No. If you don't want to get up and work, you don't want to get up and compete, you're going to get replaced. I'll tell you, let me give you a quick example, then I'm going to run down what the H-1B visa is all about. You get a person and you say, look, the budget in my company is that I could pay you $16.50 an hour. An American person in some cases say, well, I want $19 an hour. And you say, look, I can work you to 19, but you got to start at 16 because I got to make sure that you're paying out. We got profit margins that we have to reach. Can you do it for 17? No, I'm only doing it for 19. The person that's an H-1B visa person is living in Pakistan and saying, I'll risk my life to get over there to work, to do that job for whatever you request, because I know that it's better than where I'm at. And if I work hard enough, I'll move up in the company. Sometimes we have those scenarios, and that's why some Americans are afraid in part. That's not all, not you. I'm saying some. Have you guys seen the movie Homestead? I mean, that's a real question. If you haven't seen the movie Homestead, what are you waiting on? I went to see this movie, what it was on Monday. This is one of the greatest movies that I've seen with a great story. I promise you, you will not watch this movie without getting tears in your eyes. So go and see it today. I had a theater that I bought the whole theater out for people to come watch it with me, but I guarantee you're going to have an incredible time, even if I'm not there. Okay, so go see the movie. Go to angel.com/Tatum, angel.com/Tatum, and go watch Homestead today. The greatest movie that you'll see thus far. Let's talk about the H-1B visa real quick. I'm gonna read this off because I had to look it up myself because I didn't know all the details and nuances of it. So when you look at it, it says the visa is a non-immigrant visa of the United States of America that allows employees to temporarily hire foreign workers in specialized occupations. I want you to hone in on that. Specialized occupations. These jobs typically require a bachelor's degree or higher in a specific field of expertise, such as technology, engineering, medicine, business, or law. So if you thought that this was just some sweeping lottery or they just picking random people to work any job, that's not the case. It has to be a specialized field. Now it says employer sponsored. I've had an opportunity to sponsor people and I said no, because my company isn't big enough, and I think there's plenty of Americans that can do the job here, and I don't have to outsource. However, I'm telling you now, culture of Americans sometimes can be an embarrassment. I've had people be lazy. I've had people I've had to fire because they're stealing. I've had a bunch of ungrateful people that have worked for me. Not a bunch, but I've had people that have been ungrateful that worked for me. And so you, as a business owner, you can see why you say Americans sometimes, or people sometimes think you owe them something. You go out and get somebody that's hungry, they gonna get the job done. Anyway, the employee is a U.S. Employer must sponsor a foreign worker by filing the H-1B petition. As you all know, everybody doesn't get in. There's a crazy lottery, which I don't really know the nuances of how that works, but there's a lottery. Not everybody gets the opportunity. It says there's an annual cap of H-1B visas issued, 65,000 visas for workers with bachelor's degrees. In addition, 20,000 visas are for workers with master's degrees or higher. So these are highly specific, educated people that have an opportunity to come and work in America in a temporary setting. And why do you say temporary setting, Brandon? The duration of an H-1B visa person typically is granted a 3-year duration initially. They can get an extension to do 6 years, and then some of them are strategic enough. If they apply for a green card and get green card status, they can stay obviously a lot longer. Here's a part that people may be concerned about when it comes to the H-1B visa is that spouse and children can get a pass to be eligible to come over here and work as well. So sometimes they'll come over here and work, and they can also get their family members to come over here and work with an H-4 visa. Now, I don't know how frequent that happens, but it's possible. And I can see how Americans could be a little skeptical of that. My language is, my tongue is dragging today. The people who use H-1B visas are people who are in specific fields pertaining to industries like technology, healthcare, finances, education. So that's pretty much a synopsis. There's a little bit more to this, but there's no reason for me to read it all the way out.
Tonight, as President-elect Donald Trump is preparing for a widespread immigration crackdown when he takes office 25 days from now, we're seeing a crack between some of his top advisors and his MAGA base. Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy are both facing major blowback from their own supporters for not only backing, but encouraging offering more visas to highly skilled foreign workers. Over the Christmas holiday, Musk posted this online saying, think of this like a pro sports team. If you want your team to win the championship, you need to recruit top talent wherever they may be. He later added, I'm referring to bringing in, via legal immigration, the top 0.1% of engineering talent as being essential for America to keep winning. He's talking about H-1B visas, which allow employers to hire highly skilled foreign workers. Musk, who himself is from South Africa, said that he once had this kind of visa, and he's arguing that Silicon Valley is facing a shortage of excellent engineering talent, as he put it. But the annual cap on those kinds of visas right now is at $65,000, with another $20,000 for those who get a master's or a doctorate in the U.S. Musk is being backed up by his partner in Trump's government efficiency initiative, Vivek Ramaswamy. He says it's a cultural issue that there aren't more competitive engineers in the U.S. Here's what he said online. A culture that celebrates the prom queen over the math Olympiad champ or the jock over the valedictorian will not produce the best engineers. A culture that venerates Corey from Boy Meets World, or Zach and Slater over Screech and Saved by the Bell, or Stefan over Steve Urkel and Family Matters will not produce the best engineers. But that argument is not going over well with Trump's MAGA base, certainly not online. Some of them saying, we did not ask them to engineer an immigration policy. Tech wants indentured servants, not high-skilled workers. You don't even know what MAGA immigration policy is. Now, Trump himself, who I should note restricted H-1B visas in his first term, has said on the campaign trail this time around that he did want to make it easier for educated foreigners to work in the U.S.
What I want to do and what I will do is you graduate from a college, I think you should get automatically as part of your diploma a green card to be able to stay in this country. And that includes junior colleges, too. Anybody graduates from a college, you go in there for 2 years or 4 years. If you graduate or you get a doctorate degree from a college, you should be able to stay in this country.
Now, I printed out some pros and cons as it relates to H-1B visas. Okay, so when you look at some of the pros, let me go with the cons first, and then I'll go with the pros. So cons are, and this is what people believe could be happening, is that job displacement and wage suppression. Critics argue that programs enable companies to replace U.S. workers with low-paid foreign labor, creating job insecurity. Is that true? Yes, it could be very well true. Abuse of outsourcing firms. Now, on the articulated notes that I have, it says that some of these firms are accused of underpaying workers and displacing U.S. employees. Now, I'll give you an example. I work with a hiring agency, and that hiring agency looks for talent for me. Now, because they look for talent for me, I got to pay them every time they find somebody for me. And I can't tell you the specific numbers because we're under contract, but I'm gonna give you a hypothetical scenario. Just say that I have a person and all of my people that work for me that are full-time employees, just say they make $15 an hour, which is not how much they make, but just hypothetically speaking, they make $15 an hour. I only have a budget to pay them $15 an hour. Now, the agency has to make their money. So if I only have a budget to pay $15 an hour, I have to pay the agency $15 an hour. The agency would then turn around and pay the worker $12 an hour. And that could be a problem. Now, sometimes the agency will say, if it's a $15 an hour job, you have to pay the person $15 an hour, which you then have to pay the agency $18 an hour, if that makes sense. So then it can become a problem. So when Americans are thinking about these companies that are just bringing in these H-1B visa people, depending on how the company function, it may not be that beneficial to the American companies to bring them in. Because if the agency finds the person for you, they may charge you a premium. And if the person has a bachelor's degree, there's a going rate for that particular position. And you can't just skimp a person out of a position and pay them $20 an hour when they're worth $40 an hour. It's not going to work that way. And so sometimes it's better to just hire an American instead of hiring from an agency where you're going to have to pay 30%, 40% more for that employee. So I understand the fears from the Americans on that point, but that's very nuanced. The lack of mobility from visa holders, which is irrelevant to me. And it says that they are tied to the sponsor job and they can't be flexible to find other jobs. I'm totally fine with that because if I sponsor you, you're going to work for me. I'm not sponsoring you to get to America and find your dream job. No, if I'm sponsoring you, the reliability is on me. I had to go apply for the visa, and I guarantee you it's not free. I guarantee you it's not free. The government gonna get money from you no matter what. So if you go and you petition an H-1B visa for somebody, you're gonna have to pay for that as a company. Let's see. None of these other, I think, cons are really that beneficial or are that consequential. Let me go to some pros. Fill in skill gaps in the workforce. And it says allow U.S. companies to hire highly skilled professionals, particularly in the STEM field where domestic talent shortages exist. Helps maintain U.S. competitiveness in global industries, particularly in technology and research. I do think that is an incredible pro. I don't know what planet we living on, but we are in competition with people all over the world. America only sold and bought and competed in America, I'd say there'd be no purpose for an H-1B visa. But because some of these Fortune 500 companies and many companies in America are outsourcing materials and we're competing with China and all these other superpowers, we need to be able to source all the best talent from around the world. And if America is short on talent, the American companies shouldn't suffer because of that, because we may can find somebody that's not an American that has a better talent pool, i.e. Elon Musk. Then we go on and says drive economic growth. I agree with that. Supports business development. I agree with that. Promotes innovation and research. I agree with that. Benefits higher education and research institutions. I agree with that. Strengthen U.S. as a global talent hub. I agree with that. And generates tax revenue. I'm not really familiar with how that helps, but it says H-1B visas holders pay federal and state taxes, local taxes, contributing to public service and infrastructure. Higher median salaries of H-1B visa workers lead to sustainable tax contributions. That makes sense. Pathways to permanent citizenship. Now, there's two ways to look at this, right? It says it provides a structure to route for higher skilled immigrants to transition to green card holders. Now, let's talk about this for a minute. After reading what I've read to you, I believe that H-1B visas are good and a net positive for the United States of America. I think that Americans who are at the bachelor's degree and higher, I think that you need to be working hard and be competitive. You can't go to a university and get a bachelor's degree in, booty wiping structural racism or something. Booty wiping structural racism. I couldn't think of nothing else, all right? So you can't go get a bachelor's degree in that and think you're going to be competitive, right? Obviously, these H-1B visas are mostly in technology and whatever the case may be, which is a very competitive field. So what does that mean for you? That means you need to compete. And I think the American citizen should have a priority over H-1B visa, obviously. But I think you need to be worried about competing and making sure you're the best person for your job. And also, Americans go and work in other countries, too. It's not like they only come over here. Americans go and work abroad, too, for major companies, even if it's legal or illegal. Hunter Biden. Okay, so what I will say is that I think that MAGA Republicans, some of these MAGA people are upset with Elon Musk because they're fearful of things that they don't understand and they don't know. Donald Trump, I'm pretty sure he had H-1B visa type people. Maybe when my company becomes bigger, I'll hire somebody that's a H-1B visa type person. And I don't think it's a negative thing. I don't think it's a bad thing. I think that it's better to do that and spend our money and resources on people who are merit-based than have an immigration program where people who literally drain from the system will come over to here. And the people who are draining the system come over here and take y'all's jobs, the average American's job. The average American ain't in STEM programs. The average American ain't in technology. The average American is not in the higher echelons of education. The average American is working an average job. And the illegal aliens that are coming in our country and all these other immigrants that are coming in our country, they are the ones that are competing for the average American job. That's, to me, it gives us no benefit in having the average American competing with average people around the world for a job. It makes sense to me that people who are at very competitive educational levels that can become Elon Musk, to me, is better to compete at that level because it's a small group of people who have a specialized skill that can give us the competitive advantage around the entire world, and that can change the accomplishments of the United States of America in generations to come. Let's just say we didn't allow it and we didn't have an Elon Musk. We would probably lost this election without Elon Musk, just so you know. No way in the world we would have electric cars at the level that we have without Elon Musk. We wouldn't be traveling and doing all this other stuff like Elon Musk. When people had the problems over in New York, I mean, not New York, but in North Carolina, when those hurricanes hit, they didn't have Starlink. It probably would be no Starlink without an Elon Musk. So there's benefits to having competition. And there's no American that would have done what he did. If they would have, they'd already done it. So there's a need to have outside influence. But I'm going to say this and I'm going to move on. I do think that we need to, and I said this on Twitter just the other day, maybe it was last night I was writing it. We need to end all future immigration requests. I don't care what immigration request it is, H-1B visa, none of that. We need to end all future requests temporarily until we figure out what are we doing with immigration in America. How many people are we going to allow in? Are we going to do a merit-based immigration? How are we going to manage this? We need to figure it out. We already got people on a backlog that's probably take 10 years to get through. So we don't need no new people coming. Let's figure out our system and what we want to do moving forward and what's best for America. And then I believe after we've fixed the loopholes and all this other crazy stuff, we shut the border down, we've got some level of security in place, then we can allow H-1B visas and merit-based immigration only. And maybe when our country becomes more prosperous in another 100 years or 50 years, we can start allowing other immigrants to come to America. But as it stands right now, you shouldn't come here and be a freeloader. You should not come here and be on a government assistant program whatsoever. If you come here to add value. You don't come here to be another person laying on the street begging for money. You don't come here to be another burden on the system. We got enough people in America doing that. And they deserve all the resources that we have offered to give, not people that come from foreign countries. Merit-based immigration is the immigration that I support. It's not my fault that you've been born in a country that's a crap hole country. It's not my fault, and we ain't gonna never be able to change it by allowing 100,000 of y'all when it's over 1 billion of y'all who's starving and they need an opportunity. We can't provide that opportunity. The best that America can do for you is to help your country get they together. Your country need to get their stuff together. We can help y'all do that. Let us help y'all help yourself, because we can't bring everybody to America. We only can bring the best and the brightest so that we can whoop these other countries over the head because our technology is far reaching. I want to have the best technology for the military. I want to have the best innovation so we can be competitive across the world for generations to come. We can't do that with Lupe and them sneaking across the fence. And that's what we need to bring to an end. So my conclusion about H-1B visas, I think that H-1B visas are a benefit to America. I am open to having a nuanced conversation, because if there's anything about the H-1B visa that we can prove that will hurt American values, I think we should reconsider them and modify them. But we should not get rid of H-1B visas.